No, we're going to have to live with the echo, apparently. As I was just saying, Justin, poor old Justin, our wonderful admin, our wonderful technical guy, is an Arsenal fan, so we can blame him for everything. Let's get some F9 done, shall we? I have said 3 or 4 times, but you've not heard me, that tonight is an important topic because, as I was trying to demonstrate previously, wrong screen, here we are, that in the exam, I want you to be focused on section C because that's going to be the definition of your success. And in section C, we have got working capital management. Now, on our first evening, we looked at the sources and the cost of finance. On our last session, last Thursday, we spoke about risk and valuation. This evening, we're speaking about working capital management. And as you guys are all active, I would like to ask you this question. Working capital is a broad area, and I'm intending to cover as much of it, or in fact all of it, as I can. But what I would like to know from Dale, Davidzo and Mwemba is which parts of working capital cause you the greatest distress. If you can tell me this, then I can make sure that we prioritize and really work hard on those elements. So the question is, which parts of working capital management cause you the greatest concern? No answer. Okay. EOQs, Davidzo. Right, EOQs will be covered very shortly. That's a promise. Dale and Mwemba, inventory control and EOQ, very shortly. I will do that probably. Let's have a quick look. Second question. Mwemba, inventory as well. Dale, if you're still with us. Ratios, of course, I will make sure that we cover that as well. And in particular, the reverse. Let me talk you through the whole context of working capital. Factoring. All right, Dale, let me write this down. We're going to do, in the next couple of hours, we're definitely going to do inventory, ratios and factoring as a priority. And EOQ. We will, of course, cover everything. Now, let's talk. So, working capital, there we go, what's that done? Working capital management, guys, is critical to the business success because the mismanagement of working capital can lead to a business going into liquidation. The management of working capital is all about managing our current assets, which will comprise of inventory, receivables, money in the bank, and our current liabilities, which will comprise payables and potentially an overdraft. Now, as a business, the constraint that we have is too much working capital will cause us liquidity problems, but too little working capital will restrict the profit that we generate. And there is the first point on my sheet. So you see, as a financial manager, we are always trying to find a balance between liquidity and profitability. Having too much inventory is great because we've got a product to sell, but it means our money is tied up and we are less liquid than we perhaps should be. Having too little inventory means that we are unable to meet demand, but we haven't got money tied up, so therefore we're liquid. And if you talk about receivables, it's the same principle. Payables, it's the opposite. Too much payables is a good thing because we're liquid, but we're not getting the best prices from our suppliers. We measure working capital by looking at liquidity ratios, the current ratio and the quick ratio, and the inventory days and receivables days and payables days, which combine to produce this operating cycle. So who was it? Davidzo, you said ratios. We're going to start with ratios. Subsequently, we have to manage our net working capital and ensure that we avoid overtrading, which arises when we have a rapidly growing business that is reliant on their working capital without really getting any permanent capital, and they're subsequently deemed to be overtrading. I'll try and show you a question on that, which perhaps I'm going to give you to take away from this session this evening. Let's talk about that then. Let's talk about these issues and go into a question that I think is actually quite brilliant. It's a challenging question, and it's from the June 2014 exam. June 2014 is this question here, CZ. It's June 2014, question 2. I'm going to put it up on the screen. And I'm going to ask you guys to have a little read of this question, and then I'm going to show you how we're going to answer it. And hopefully, Davidzo, this is going to deal with our ratios conundrum. So, hopefully you've digested this question. Now, inventory days equals inventory, which we have in this question, and by the way, I'm going to answer part A. Inventory days, we have inventory of 5.7 million divided by cost of sales. Cost of sales, we were told, is 26 million. And in this particular question, we are looking at how many days in a year. We're not told, so we assume we multiply by 365. Therefore, what will we do? Well, we take 5.7 million and divide it by 26 million, and then we multiply that by 365. And we get 80 days. For our receivables days, what we're going to do is take our receivables and we're going to divide this by credit sales, which we times by 365. So our receivables are 6,575,000. Our credit sales are 40 million. We're going to multiply that by 365. Which gives us 60 days. And finally, for our payables days, well, our payables days is going to equal our payables divided by our cost of sales times 365, which payables 2,137,000 divided by 26 million multiplied by 365. $30 days. Now, let's just talk this through. What is this telling us? It tells us that if we're holding 5.7 million of inventory and our cost of sales across the year was 26 million, then the turnover, the average amount of time that we are holding inventory is for 80 days. We are depriving ourselves of cash for 80 days because the inventory is being held, reducing our liquidity. The receivables is telling us how long it takes us before our customers are paying us on average. So if our receivables year-end balance is 6.5 million, off the back of 40 million worth of credit sales, then it takes 60 days. Finally, our payables days is telling us how long we take to pay our suppliers. And if we're looking at 2 million outstanding from a cost of sales of 26 million, on average it takes 30 days. Now there is such a thing as the operating cycle. And the operating cycle is telling us the time cash is deprived from the business. And I'll make that clear in a moment. But the operating cycle is inventory days plus receivables days minus payable days. So 80 plus 40 minus 30 gives us an operating cycle of 110 days, which indicates So, the operating cycle, it tells us about cash when it leaves the business and then when it comes back into the business. Now, guys, think about this for yourselves. What's your own personal situation? Most of my cash comes in before I allow it to leave because I use credit cards. So I wait till I get paid and then I pay off my credit card bill. Now, it's perhaps not best to talk about this in the context of personal finances, but I want you to imagine for a moment a supermarket, okay? And I'm just deviating away from the question. This cash operating cycle represents a business that clearly needs their inventory, and to generate sales they need to have a relationship with their customers that they allow them time to pay, and likewise we buy from suppliers and they give us time to pay. But just consider a supermarket, because this will demonstrate to you what I'm about to say next. So a supermarket will have perhaps inventory days 30. Low. Why? Because it's food and they'd want to turn that fresh produce over quickly, and the thing that's pulling it up to 30 is the other elements, the cans of Coca-Cola, dare I say. Now, you've all shopped in a supermarket. You don't get credit. So their receivables days is technically 0. It will actually be a small amount, but we'll ignore that. It's technically 0. Now, supermarkets are notorious because supermarkets will go to their suppliers, their payables days, and they'll say to their suppliers, we are going to buy lots from you, so we will pay you when we're ready to pay you. And subsequently, they'll have at least 3 months credit. Now, what that does is that gives us a supermarket operating cycle which is negative. Is that a bad thing? No, because the supermarket, and think about this, the supermarket is getting money off you and I before they've actually paid for the goods that we've just purchased. So today I was in the supermarket buying some juice. I paid the supermarket for that juice. That juice probably hasn't been paid for by the supermarket. They are able to sell a product to me that they've not yet paid for. It's genius. It's brilliant. It's a cash generating business. Now, going back to this exam question, we're asked here to calculate the working capital cycle, as we have done, just here, at the end of March 2014, and discuss whether a working capital cycle should be positive or negative. Well, it depends. It depends on the industry in which we operate, because certain industries cannot have a negative cycle. But I'm sure most businesses would love to have a negative operating cycle, because a negative operating cycle means we receive cash before we spend it. Let me write some notes down here. Okay, hopefully, guys, that makes the point, and it overwhelmingly makes the point. Now, that's straightforward ratios. Just a quick little bit of tuition here. The current ratio, as I'm sure you are aware, the current ratio equals your current assets divided by your current liabilities. Your quick ratio equals your current assets minus inventory divided by your current liabilities. And subsequently, your sales to net working capital equals sales divided by current assets minus current liabilities. So, we've got a challenge in part B of the question, because it's asking us to calculate the target quick ratio. The target quick ratio for 2015 requires that we know what our current assets and our current liabilities are. So we have a problem, and that is reconstruction, and this is what we call reverse, or what I'd like to call reverse ratios. Now, reverse ratios enables us to identify the components of working capital from the operating cycle. So how do we do it? We take the days and we divide by 365, and then we multiply by either credit sales or cost of sales. So with that in mind, hopefully that Davidzo, that gives you some scope of ratios. We are told the inventory days for 2015. So part B, March 2015, we're told that the inventory days are 60. Well, how much inventory are we going to hold? This is how we find out. We're going to take that 60. We're going to divide it by 365. We're going to multiply it by inventory is cost of sales, which hopefully you appreciate is 24 million. That's going to give us $3,945,000. Let's go again. We're told receivables has days of 75 divided by 365 multiplied by 40 million. $8,219,000. 8,219,000. We are subsequently as well told that not inventory, I've done that one, haven't I? Payables is going to equal, what are we told here? 55 days times 24 million. $3,616,000. 3,616,000. We need, though, and we are told, and hopefully you appreciate this, in the question, which is, I forget, so we're on June 14. In the question, it tells us, and we've established, that the company expects to have current assets of inventory and receivables we have them. Payables, we have them. But it tells us there's going to be an overdraft which we don't have, and neither can we use that formula. So what we're going to do is we're going to gain leverage here based upon the current ratio. Well, the current ratio is 1.4. The current ratio equals current assets divided by current liabilities. That gives us 1.4. Subsequently, we know that we have current assets here of inventory and receivables. So we know that our current assets, 3945 plus 8219 is 12,164. So down here, 12,164 divided by current liabilities equals 1.4. Current liabilities, therefore, is 12,164 divided by 1.4, which gives us 8,689,000. That is our current liabilities. Now, to be truthful, that's all we need to complete this question. That's all we need. So our quick ratio is going to be our current assets minus inventory, because it's not liquid and we've got no legal right to convert that to sales, divided by current liabilities. Current assets of 12,164 minus the inventory of 3,945, a little bit silly because we knew that the receivables were, divided by 8,689 gives us 0.946. Simple. Our sales to net working capital, well, our sales remain at 40 million and our current assets minus our current liabilities gives us 11.51. Guys, there's our answer. That's part B done. I'm assuming you guys are happy. I've not seen a question, so we shall proceed on to part C. Part C. Analyse and compare the current assets and current liability positions for March 14 and 15 and discuss how working capital financing policy would have changed. Now really here, the current asset and current liability positions, what we need to do is I'm going to do this. Inventory days, receivable days, payable days, operating cycle, current ratio, quick ratio, sales to net working capital in 2014 versus 2015. Analyse, do some more work on some numbers, but we already know these numbers because we knew, or we've subsequently worked out this data, and we've been given this data. So 60 plus 35, 80. Quick ratio, we've calculated for 2015, the current ratio rather, we were told is 1.4, and we've just worked this out to be 0.945, and this to be 11.51. Well, let's work these ones out. Let's show you how we're going to do this. In 2014, the current ratio is going to be 12,275 divided by 6819. 12,275 shared by 6819, that gives me 1.8. The quick ratio is going to be 12,275 minus the inventory of 5,700 divided by 6,819. So 12,275 minus 5,700 shared by 6,819. That gives me 0.964, and the sales to net working capital is going to be 40 million. Can you still see that? No, I mustn't keep doing that. Divided by 12,275 minus 6,819. Gives me 7.33. So guys, look at this. Let's take a step back now. Analyze, discuss, compare, contrast. I am very, very concerned that when you come to do your commentary, you may produce what I refer to as an articulation of your calculation. Please do not be enticed to do such a thing. You don't need to, excuse me, and I apologize here. No, I thought I was going to sneeze and I didn't. An articulation of your calculation means that all you do in your commentary, I'm going to turn some temperature on here because I'm starting to freeze. Is all you do is you explain it was 80, it's now 60, it was 60, it's now 75, it was 30, it's now 55. We can see that in our table. What the examiner wants to see is that you understand what is going on with the current asset and current liability positions. Well, they've remained largely unchanged if you look at the actual numbers, but they have changed. Because the current assets, yes, we're holding 140 versus 135, but there's been a slight switch. What we're now doing, see, we did have 140 days worth, we've now got 145. What we've done is we've seemed to have improved upon our inventory management to the expense of our receivables days. So we've enhanced our liquidity by reducing our inventory, and we've used that, perhaps, to extend the credit terms offered to our suppliers, which makes us more competitive. The downside of this, however, is we have relied perhaps too heavily upon the goodwill of our suppliers because our payables days has almost doubled. And what has that invariably done? Well, it has in fact seen our operating cycle reduce from 110 to 80, which does suggest we've got improved liquidity. However, our liquidity position appears to be deteriorating. Now, there's one final piece of information that's really of use here. The 2015 overdraft will be established by looking at the, what are we looking at? 8689 for current liabilities, and taking out, what do we have for our payables? Our payables 3616. And that gives us 5073, which suggests our overdraft has increased. Which tells us we've got deteriorating liquidity. Now, what am I going to suggest here? I'm going to do a brief commentary that tells us not it's gone from 60 to 80 and from left to right, but our current assets have stayed largely unchanged. No, we've had a slight reduction with So it was 12,275. It's now 12,164. It's gone down by 111,000. 111,000 from 12,275. It's declined by 0.9%. Okay, that will suffice. Our current liabilities have increased significantly from 6819 to 8689. So from, my goodness me, I'm in an icebox. One moment, people. If I start to get icicles coming off me, you'll know why. Current liabilities have increased significantly. They were 6819. They are now 8689. That is an increase of 1870 from a base of 6819. They've increased by 27.4%. Our overdraft was 4682, it's now 5073. %. Now, That suffice. There's one other element to this question, and again, I'm just going to go and veer away from the requirement to do a bit of tuition here. In your notes, once upon a time, you would have looked at a topic that's called financing working capital. And the way in which we look at financing working capital is to do the inverse of our current ratio. Now, if we look at the inverse of our current ratio, which is your current liabilities over your current assets, what that gives you is the percentage of assets, current assets, financed by short-term funds, being payables and overdraft. And this is the notion that if we have a large amount, we're aggressive. If we have a small amount, we're conservative. In this question, what we have is current liabilities. I'm going to do this for 2014 versus 2015. So back to answering the question. In 2014, we had current liabilities of 6819, financing 12,275,000 of assets. In 2015, we've got 8689, financing 12,164. So we had 6819 shared by 12,275, 55%. We've now got 71%. So what is the financing policy? CSZ has become more aggressive. Okay, who are we? Davidzo, that for me is ratios covered. And I'm going to set you up at some stage. In fact, now, we're not going to do this anymore, but the question I recommend that we look at is cargo. So this is to practice your ratios, and it's from the sample questions from March and June 2016. Yes, March and June 2016. I strongly advocate you guys practice by doing Craigo. What you've got here is a company that you're required to discuss. Is it overtrading? You have inventory average information just here. Well, you must repeat that for 20x, for 20x4 and 20x5. So you do all of these calculations for inventory days, receivables days, payables, current ratio, quick ratio. You should also do sales to net working capital. You should do operating cycle for, you can't do that one, but you can do this here. And I would also advocate you look at the percentage change in working capital elements, in sales, in long-term funds. And then what you do is you engage in a discussion as to whether this company is overtrading and how it can be overcome. Well, that, guys, will give you the opportunity to practice your ratios. Overtrading is occurring in this question because Craigo's credit sales have risen significantly year on year. They have financed this not through long-term sources of finance because their debt, and are we told about equity? No, we're not, has remained constant. And what you can see is an increase in their current assets, but most significantly is an almost tripling of their overdraft. This company appears to be overtrading, and how it should be overcome is by accessing some permanent long-term source of finance. So, Davidzo, I hope you're good with ratios. We're kind of closing out on ratios to a large extent. We're going to move towards now inventory, perhaps. The remaining element, let me just apologise, the remaining element of that question that we were just working on, I've ignored because it's to do with transaction risk, and that's risk management we covered in the last class. I will say this, where you see the word 3, don't give 4. You'll only have the first 3 marked, and it's internal hedging methods for foreign currency transaction risk. You'd talk there perhaps about lead-in, invoicing domestic currency, and netting. Okay, that's foreign currency we're done with. I'm going to move towards the next item on the list because somebody asked about EOQ and inventory control. So on my list that I keep referring back to, we've done CSZ and I've recommended you do cargo. We have in my mind covered now the liquidity profitability trade-off, liquidity ratios, net working capital ratios, working capital days in the operating cycle, and overtrading. So nicely, good stuff. On our list next is inventory. And inventory is a rather pleasant topic, I feel. Inventory, we've got this thing known as just in time. There was a question, an exam once, which I can't rule out happening again, which asked you about just in time. Now, just in time is a philosophy that I subscribe to because I always arrive in this studio just before 6 o'clock to start my class. I'm not inventory, but in the context of inventory, there is a business out there who revolutionized the sandwich market. I don't know if I'm allowed to say their name. If any of you work for them, please send me loads of sandwiches. But it sounds like something French. And they been around for years now in the UK, probably globally. They are at all the airports. Their sandwiches taste better than anybody else's. And you pay a premium for that. But they revolutionised it with just in time, because whereas the sandwich I ate this morning was probably made in a factory somewhere 2 days ago, the sandwich that this company sell was made fresh in store. And their ingredients arrive in store just in time as the customers demand it. Just in time leads to an enhanced product. But the business I'm referring to, I was about to say their name. The business I'm referring to, they have a brilliant system in place, and subsequently they need to be ever so sure that their suppliers will deliver the quality they require. So for just in time to work, you need a really enhanced relationship with your suppliers who's bringing in the bread and the ingredients. Vertical integration may even occur, and they may become part of your business. This improved supplier relationship, the enhancement of quality, leads to some significant savings in terms of working capital because we eliminate, or rather we reduce our inventory down to a minimum. What does that do? Well, that saves us finance cost because it enhances the liquidity of the business. As inventory goes down, cash comes back up. Fantastic. And Pret a Manger doesn't need excessive storage space. If you do work for them, remember me. They don't need excessive storage space, so they can occupy a retail outlet and utilize all of the space. Unlike, dare I say, some of their competitors who have got a big storage room full of produce sitting there in refrigerators, which is why it tastes so bad. Now, just in time then is dangerous because if the delivery doesn't turn up, then we're going to find that we're unable to sell anything for the day. So we run a risk with just in time of having what we call stock out. No product to sell. But with just-in-time, the financial benefits is the improved liquidity, the reduction in the physical space, which saves us cost, and the reduced finance cost. Okay, so if you wanted to search out that just-in-time question, it was WQZ, which you'd find in your revision kit, and you can practice the EOQ that we're going to talk about in a moment. Alongside that, we have something known as a reorder level. Now, if I am working for a business and I'm the inventory manager, I'm in procurement, and I have a lead time from my supplier of 2 weeks. So if I place an order, it will be 2 weeks before that order is received. That product that I'm ordering is consumed 1,000 units per week. What is my reorder level? 2,000 units. Because I've got to place an order at 2,000, knowing full well that I'll be waiting 2 weeks for it to arrive, and knowing full well that my consumption will be 1,000 a week. If I order after 2,000, so if I order at 1,500, I'm going to have a stock out. So the reorder level ensures that you replenish in time. Okay, let's talk about the EOQ and the finance savings and the non-EOQ with purchase discounts, and let's perhaps do 1 or 2 questions on that. Let me do a bit of tutorial. Okay, let's have a think. By the way, guys, I apologise for the late start. I'm going to try and make up the time for you today. I can't really go much beyond 9 o'clock because the studio here gets closed, but I will perhaps, I still need a break very shortly because standing up talking is quite tiring. I'm sure you're sitting down relaxing, but I'll try and make the time up to you. But let's just have a quick look at this next EOQ question before we do have a break. The economic order quantity. Before I tell you about that, let's talk to you about the annual order cost. The annual order cost will equal annual demand divided by our order size. That tells us how many times per annum we're ordering, times the cost of an order. The holding cost equals our order size divided by 2, so we get the average we've held over a period, multiplied by the cost of holding 1 unit. And the economic order quantity equals the square root of 2 times the cost of an order times the annual demand divided by the cost of holding 1 unit. So there was a question that I thought perhaps we could look at. Okie doke, is it this one? Yes, sorry, we're going to extract this question very quickly then, so I'm going to have to direct you to what we should read. The question paper is the most recent exam paper, in fact. It is September 2016. I'm not sure I have a copy ready for us. Yes, I do. Beautiful. Here we are. So, September 2016, the last paper released by the ACCA. Now, to save us some time, can I just draw your attention to this paragraph? 360 days in a year is not relevant for us. And I'd like you to look at part B. So, have a read of this. From a different supplier, Nessard purchases 2.4 million per year of component K at a price of $5 per component. Stop Work out the annual demand in units immediately because you need that. If we purchase 2.4 million and each one costs us 5, then we consume 480,000 units per annum. Necessary information. This is at a constant rate, one of the underlying principles of the EOQ. The company orders at the start of each month. So currently they order, the current process is 12 orders per annum. The cost of which is £12.48 per order. And the holding cost is £106 per unit. So therefore, we need to establish a number of elements because we're asked whether they should adopt EOQ. So the current policy, this is September 2016. The current policy the order cost equals 480,000 divided by 40,000. What did I need to do that? Not really, because I knew it was 12 times the cost of ordering, which is 248.44. The holding cost, the 40,000 by the way is 480 divided by 12, is 40,000, the order size, divided by 2 times 106. What do we get? So 12 times 248.44 gives us 298128. 40,000 divided by 2 times 1.06 gives us 21,200, which gives us a total cost of 24,181.28. Now, if we adopt the EOQ, the EOQ says 2 times the cost of an order times the annual demand divided by 1.06. So the square root of 2 times 248.44 times 480,123 shared by 1.06 gives me a nice number of 15,000. Subsequently, my order cost is going to reduce, no, it's going to rise because we're now making more frequent orders. So we're actually ordering about 32 times per annum at the 248.44. That increases our cost to 7,950.08. But our holding cost is going to fall because we are ordering and holding less. Comes in at 7950, which is normally the case. So we normally reach some form of equilibrium here. So our total cost is now 15,900.08, which is cheaper and saves us 8,000. Gosh, I can't even spell. So, adopting the EOQ will save 8,281.20 per annum. And we were asked, should they adopt the EOQ? Yes, as it's cheaper. Okay, it's 7:30. I'm going to have to take a break. I'm going to try and be back here in 10 minutes to do all the things I need to do. I'll see you then, and we'll carry on from exactly where we were. Go and grab yourselves a drink. I'll see you back here as quickly as we all can be. So, Justin has kindly given me his heater because it was like an icebox. Let's get back to it. We are on EOQ. We still need to do factoring, but I'm going to stay with this question for a moment whilst we're here, if that's okay with you guys, is because the question we are currently looking at has a couple of other elements, and one of which will lead me on to Dale, your request for factoring. Now, one of the things that really makes a difference and doubles your chances of success is being able to answer written questions in section C. And right here, we've got a question that asks you to critically discuss how Nestlé could improve the management of its trade receivables. For 10 marks, that's a tall order. But if you plan and construct, then you can get those 10 marks. And clearly, what I would see in this type of question is people will only talk about one aspect, and they will talk about perhaps how we check the credit worthiness of a customer. Do you really think that's enough for 10 marks? Of course it isn't. So I'm going to give you a plan, and I want you to take this plan away and write this plan up, and if you wish you can email it to me and I'll mark it for you. But you've got to recognise for 10 marks you've got to come up with 10 good things to say. 10 strong sentences, not bullet points, but sentences. So how do we improve the management of our receivables? Well, we need to have a policy. And we need to determine whether or not we should even offer receivables. Because if we stop offering, then we're going to enhance the management no end. So talk about the competition, talk about the need for us to have a policy. Then we've got to talk about, within that, the actual credit terms offered and whether we extend it. Then, and only then, you talk about the assessment, the credit assessment of customers, both old and new. How do we assess them? Don't just say the obvious, but talk about new and talk about old customers. Then, when we raise an invoice, you've got to talk about monitoring, or rather prompt invoicing perhaps. And then prompt invoice and monitoring to make sure people are paying on time. And then we've got to talk about how we chase, or perhaps before then, how we could perhaps offer discounts for early payment. Can you see this? No, you can't. There we go. Let's bring that up. And then you could talk about how we chase late payers. Or how we perhaps outsource to a third party. Now, you want to score 10 marks out of this? I think you can get perhaps 1, 2, 1, 1, 2, and 2. 2, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. 9 marks there. Write up an answer, guys. You've got to practice your writing. You've got to be able to score good marks with the writing if you want to pass this paper. You cannot just rely on your calculations. Whilst I'm also here, this is an early settlement discount, but this is not us offering early settlement discount. This is a supplier. So this is payables management. And what we were told in this question was this, that we have... Oh, by the way, what I would also do to get your final mark here is talk about the reasons why they need to improve. And they need to improve because up here our customers are told are taking 65 days instead of 40, and that 1% turns to bad debts. They have a problem. Now, I'm leaving that for you to construct a written answer. Here, what I've got is trade payables are paid after 60 days, but one of our suppliers has offered us an early settlement discount of 0.5% if we pay within half that time. Our administration costs will be increased by 500, and we buy 1.5 million worth of components from this supplier. Well, need some more pages. What I need you to appreciate is our purchase price will reduce, but our finance cost will increase as payables is reduced. So in the context of this question, we spend 1.5 million, so we will save the purchase savings will be 1.5 million, and we are offered a discount here of 0.5%. $1.5 million times 0.5% is 7,500. Our admin costs will rise by the £500, and our finance cost will also rise, giving us a net cost or benefit. And we will reject if it's a net cost, we will accept if it's a net benefit. Now, our current level of payables with this customer is going to use the technique that we saw earlier. We take 60 days. Be careful, there are only 360 days in this question, and I'm going to multiply by the 1.5 million. That is 250,000. But our revised payables, well, that's half this amount. Quite nice and straightforward, will be 125,000. So the reduction in payables is 125,000, which times 4%, because that's our finance cost, will lead to an increase in finance costs. Payables is a free source of finance of 5,000. My goodness me, I'm melting. Let's get that off. 5,000. So we've got a net benefit. Should we accept this discount? Yes, we should. Okay, where am I going to take you to next? I'm going to take you to the factoring question requested by Dale. And let me just highlight the things I believe we've covered so far. We have, in the last few moments, seen from the context of payables discounts offered, and we've accepted that. We have also seen funding working capital, and I showed you this aggressive approach. Conservative is where we use long-term finance. We are now going, or in fact, receivables management. I gave you the outline for an answer. The credit policy, the credit worthiness, the invoice and monitor, the collect and recovery. We're now going to factoring, and the question that I think we should do, so we've done CSZ, we've just done NISAD. Widnor. Let me check Widnor. Yes, that shall do. So guys, Widnor is from the exam paper that is June 2015. June 2015. Do we have Widnor? There we are. Let me leave you to read that for a moment. So, what is a factoring business? They are a third party that will undertake collection of amounts owed to us by our customers, and they will hopefully derive a financial benefit. They will offer us a service that they have expertise in. They are potentially likely to upset our customers, but we're never challenged with that issue. We want to see the financial elements of this. What's going to happen here is we need to use our credit sales because we need to work out the impact upon our receivables of a reduction to 35 days and compare that with our current receivables. The reduction will be a benefit to us and it will save us 5% per year. We will also benefit from this admin savings and from the reduction of our bad debts. But we're going to have to pay for this privilege because they are going to charge us 0.75% of our credit sales, and in addition to that they're going to charge us what's referred to as a finance premium, whereby 80% will be lent to us effectively at a rate of 7%, which is 2% higher than our 5%. The non-recourse basis that they are offering us means that if they are unable to collect, they return it to us, so it remains our problem. Let me start by doing a pro forma of all of the issues that we're going to be confronted by. So Widnor, we're going to have a finance saving. That finance saving will also be a bad debt saving. And in fact, can I do the bad debt now? Yes, I can, because the bad debts are 1% of credit sales. So 26.75 million times 1% times 70% that they will save. 26.75 million times 1% is 260. What have I done here? That can't be right. 267,500. 26,750. 1, 2, 3. 26,750,000 times 1% is, yes, 267,500. They're going to save us 7%. It's a big saving. 187,250. On top of that, we've got admin savings. The admin savings are 50,000, but we have got the factor fee. The factor's fee is going to be quite large because they're going to take, so we're told, 0.75% of our revenue. Which equates to 200,625, and they're going to charge us a finance premium. Now that's going to be a separate working, this is going to be a separate working, and then we're going to look at whether we've got a net cost or a net benefit. What is happening here then? Start off with our finance saving. Our current receivables, we're told, are 4.458 million. 4,458. Let's do this in dollars per thousand. Our revised is going to be 35 days divided by 360 times 26.75 million. That's going to come down from 4 down to 2,600,000. Round this to 601. 2601, which means there's a reduction in our receivables of 4458 minus 2601 is 1,857,000, which at 5% will save us 92,850. Then the revised receivables, 80% will be lent to us. 2601 times 0.8 means that we will be borrowing 2081 at a rate of 2% over and above what we currently pay. That's going to cost us 41,616. 41.616 was that number. Now let's take a look at this. 92,850 plus 187,250 plus 50,123 minus 200,625 minus 41,616. We're going to have a benefit of 87,859. That's a benefit. Dale, does that assist you with factoring? That's a factoring question that I had available to us. If you want more, please let me know. I will leave the last part of that question because I believe you can answer it quite comfortably. I want to see then. So we have now covered factoring. We've done Widnor. Let me have a consideration and see where we should go next. The Widnor question, yes, of course. The Widnor question is from June 2015. So Widnor is, I should have really put this on the pack, it's June 2015. Let's have a look. Flit, is that worth doing? Maybe. Cargo I said for you to do. ZXC. Okay, I'm going to just jump to ZXC first of all, which is this question here, and this is from the December 2015. And the reason I want to jump to this is because it's an early settlement discount in the context, I believe, yes, of receivables. So it will enable me to just say we've done this element. So this is December 2015. And the question is called ZXC, which again I'm going to leave for you to read for a moment. This is a tough one, I remember this now. Yes, this is as complex as factoring because of so much elements that are required. And when we saw a settlement discount offered to us by our supplier, we were just limited to the savings in purchase price and the increase in our finance cost. Now, a straightforward settlement discount question in the context of customers would normally see a reduction in finance cost, less lost revenue. Not in this question. because as you can see there is so many other elements the examiner is squeezed in, such as incremental credit sales, such as reduction in bad debts and increased admin costs. We also need to look to see if we do in fact lose revenue, which we will do, and we need to account for that. So a fairly elongated exercise required for this 6 marks. Let's attempt to tackle this and deal with the elements that we know first and foremost. So this question, ZXC from December 2015. The first thing that I definitely know is going to happen, in fact I don't like writing over this, let's start from here. So the first thing that I know is going to happen is we're going to have an increase in our profit as a consequence of the increase. Now hopefully guys you've got to appreciate it's not 30 million because that's irrelevant, it's 24 million. So the increased profit, well that is 24 million times 20% is 4.8 million, but of that 10% is profit, so 480,000. Now, are we going to see a finance saving? That we're not sure, so I'm just going to put finance and leave it at that. Are we going to see a reduction in our bad debts? Oh, well, our bad debts are in fact rising. We've got to be very careful here. Just write bad debts. Makes this complicated. What else is going to happen? Are we going to see a loss of revenue? I think we will, but we've got to be careful again because our lost revenue is 75% of credit customers are going to take a discount, but our new credit customers, revised credit sales, you see that okay on your screen? Revised credit sales, there we go, will equal 24 million times 1.20, which reflects the 4.8 million increase, so it's 28.8 million. The lost revenue is 28.8 million times 75% times 0.5%, because that's going to be the discount that we offer. So 21.6 million worth of sales, we will lose 0.5%. We're going to lose 108,000. And finally, this is straightforward. We're told admin costs would rise. So our admin costs are 35,000. So what's going to be the impact? We need to do some workings. I'm going to start with the easier working first. Our current bad debts, well, our current bad debts are 24 million. You know, the 6 million I've excluded, they won't go bad because they're cash sales. 24 million, and we're told that somewhere 0.5% become bad. 24 million, 0.5 become bad, that's 120,000. The revised bad debts, well, 28.8 million is the new level of credit sales, and it's 0.375%. So 28.8 million times 0.375, that's 108,000. So yes, we are going to make a saving of 12,000. So the bad debt saved is 12,000. Okay, now our current receivables, we're not told, are we? But we're going to use our knowledge of the reverse ratio. 51 days divided by 360 times our credit sales of 24 million. We have currently receivables of 3.4 million. our revised receivables, I need to do a work in, is going to be a certain amount of days times 28.8 million. And then we're going to multiply that by our finance cost of 4%. So, what do I know? I know that those that accept the settlement discount is 75%, and they have to pay within 30 days. Those that reject the settlement discount, which will be the balance, 25%, they will continue to take 51 days. So 30 times 0.75 gives me 22.5. 51 times 0.25, that gives me 12.75, plus the 22.5, we're looking at 35.25. 35.25 divided by 360 times 28,800 gives us a new amount of 2,820,000, which means 580,000 is our reduction, of which 4% comes to 23,200. So we are going to make a finance saving $23,200. All in all, we're going to have a net benefit here of 372,200. So it is a benefit. Should we offer the settlement discount? Yes, because there is a benefit of 372,200. Okay, let's go back to my reconciliation, and I can now comfortably say we have seen settlement discounts, we have seen EOQ. We have not spoken about invoice discounting, but it's rarely seen in an exam, but it could well be there one day. Invoice discounting is where, rather than Factor collects on our behalf, we simply sell our invoices to an intermediary who will provide us a percentage of that invoice. The customer will never know that such a relationship exists. We are effectively using our invoices to raise money by selling it on at a discount. Bulk purchase decisions. KXP in the kit. Let me think. Is this worth doing? Bulk discounts? Question 54 in the revision kit. Is it 54? Ah, somebody's put out the wrong revision kit. Nonetheless, let's have a look. Is it ZPS? I think it was. No, it wasn't ZPS. That was payables. It's KXP. Doesn't matter. Let's do what. Let's deal with this question. Yeah, so ZPS. Why am I doing this? I'm not doing all of it. I'm just doing this bulk purchase discount. Bulk purchase discount is here. The supplier's offered us either a 0.5% payment in full in 30 days or a discount of 3.6% on orders of 30,000 or more. If the bulk purchase discount is taken, the cost of holding components in inventory would increase to 220. Right, got to be wary of this question, because what I need you to know is we currently place monthly orders for 10,000. This is not an economic order quantity question. I'm not worried about the settlement discount because we've seen one of those today. What I am interested in is that we have annual demand of 120,000 and we currently place orders for 10,000. We've been offered a discount of 3.6% if we place orders of 30,000. Our ordering cost is 200 and the holding cost of a component is $1. And if we do go for larger, our holding cost will rise. We're going to use some of the techniques and formulas from EOQ, but this is not an EOQ question. So ZPS our current policy equals 10,000 units per order. 10,000 units per order. So our order cost equals 120,000 divided by 10,000 multiplied by 200. Our holding cost currently equals 10,000 divided by 2 times $1. Now here we also got to consider the purchase cost, because we buy 120,000 units per annum at a price in the question of $7.50. So 12 orders are placed at 200, that's 2,400. Our holding cost is 5,000 and our purchase cost is 900,000. So we're looking at 907,400 as our current policy. If we though take the bulk discount, we are going to see our order cost fall because we now place less orders. 4 orders a year, our cost falls significantly, but our holding cost is going to rise twofold. Firstly, because we now hold on average 15,000 units, and secondly, because it's gone up from $1 a unit to $2.20, which means our cost increases dramatically to 33,000. But our purchase cost, that 900,000 from above, will actually be reducing because we get a 3.6% discount, meaning we pay 96.4%. So 96.4% times the 900,000 gives us a vastly reduced price, and that gives us a total cost of 901,400, which in comparison to our current policy will save 6,000. So yes, we should accept the bulk discount. Okay, we're making good progress, guys. We are hopefully going to be able to see pretty much everything. So I just did ZPS with you, and I can now say that we've seen a bulk purchase discount, which is kind of like inventory management in some regards as well. Okay, that leaves us really with just cash management. Now, cash management, I'm going to do a question that I don't particularly like, and I'm going to do it on Excel, and I'm going to get the Excel uploaded. I just, prior to that, would like to show you the Miller-Orr model and Baumol. And where are we going to find Miller-Orr? Partly in WOBNIG and partly in an MCQ. So hopefully WOBNIG is in this revision kit that's been made available to me. If it's not, I'm in a bit of trouble. Yeah, here it is. Right, we don't need to read the whole question, guys. What we need to recognise is this part here, part B. So in the revision kit, look for a question called WOBNIG, and it tells us they're considering using the Miller-Orr model to manage their cash flows. The minimum cash balance will be 200,000 and the spread is expected to be 75. Calculate the Miller-Orr model, upper limit and return point, and explain how that's used to manage the cash balance. Well, first of all, there's some good news for you. And the good news is this. In our revision sheet, in our exam paper, we have a formula for Miller-Orr model and the return point, which is lower plus a third of the spread. We also have this nasty looking spread formula, which in this question we didn't need to use because 75,000 we were told was the spread. And we were also told in this question that the lower limit is 200,000. Now, the Miller-Orr model is the perfect balance, so this is WOBNIG, the Miller-Orr model aspect. And what I want you to recognise is the Miller-Orr model is the perfect balance between liquidity and profitability, because we have a lower limit, which here we're told is 200,000. And we have an upper limit, which is simply, because the difference here, you see that, is the spread. The upper limit is simply 275 because it's the lower plus the spread. What that means is this company will never allow cash to go below 200,000 or never allow it to go above 275, because what they do is if cash hits that amount, they will make an investment of 50,000 to bring them to the return point, which is lower plus a third of the spread, so subsequently that's 225. That's lower plus 1/3 of the spread. And if they subsequently reach the bottom limit, they borrow 25,000. And the Miller-Orr model ensures the company always has adequate cash, so they remain liquid and they don't carry too much surplus cash, because hopefully you appreciate surplus cash is not profitable because you're not getting a return on it. Guys, that's the Miller-Orr. Baumol, which I had a question lined up previously. I just forget where it was. Yes, here it is. I'm going to talk you through this first. The Baumol model is the Miller-Orr model, is the EOQ for cash. And what it does is the same thing. It's 2 but times the transaction cost times the annual demand for cash divided by the opportunity cost of holding cash. So if I take you here, I think to the June 2015 paper, June 2015, and I actually take you back to the multiple choice questions, to this one. Have a read of question 15 here at the top. Company needs cash of 150,000 each year for regular payments. Converting the company's short-term investments into cash to meet these impairs transaction cost of 400. So 2 times 400 times 150,000 divided by the opportunity cost. Short-term deposits pay interest of 5% per year. So if we invest, we get 5%, but if we take it out, our cash deposits only earns interest of 1%. So if we keep it illiquid, we earn 5%. If we keep it liquid, we earn 1%. The opportunity cost is 5 minus the 1, 4%, which expressed as a decimal place is 0.04. And on our calculators, the square root of 2 times 400 times 150,000 shared by 0.04 gives me 54,772. Answer C, Balmoral. Right, just moving on. Energy levels rapidly decreasing. There is only truly one thing that we've not seen, and that is a cash budget, which I know you've seen in your F5 studies. So we're going to get you to look at a question that is called FLIT. Now FLIT in my pack is on page 17. FLIT is in fact from the December 2014 paper, is it? Yeah, December 2014. December 2014. I need you to really immerse yourself in this, because you're not going to be able to follow me unless you've had some time. So please take 5 and just read that question, and I'm going to answer it with a spreadsheet to save time, but I need you to follow what I'm doing. So over to you for 5. So, final question of the evening, guys. There is a cash flow forecast for a 3-month period. We've been given sales volumes, however, for 5 months. Necessary? Absolutely. Because implications are things that happen in December will be delayed and paid in January. And things that take place and are spent in March relate to April's sales. That you can see, our selling price per unit is 800 and will increase by 5%, which is up to 840 in February. So from February onwards, it's 840. Sales are all on 1 month's credit, which means December sales get paid in January. January sales get paid in February, February sales in March. So we've got to work out the revenues and delay them a month. Production of goods for sale takes place 1 month before sales. So we produce January's 1250 units in December. However, each unit requires 2 units of raw material costing 200. Thus we spend 400 and we pay for it on 1 month's credit. In other words, the things that were made for January are paid in January. They're made in December but paid in January. Confusing. Then we're told that variable overheads and wages equal to 100 per unit, sales unit here, are incurred during production and paid in the month. So, units that are produced for January in December are paid in December. The opening cash balance is expected to be 40,000. We have a loan to be received in March and we will buy a machine in March. Calculate the cash balance. So as I stress, this is not the nicest looking of questions, and if I have the ability to, I'm going to show you a little answer that I've made already. And I need you to follow and recognise what these numbers are telling us. So this is important that you appreciate. You had to look at all the sales units. Can you see that clearly? Let me show you. Is that better? Just about. So, what happens in December is those units. Subsequently, the selling price times the units. The revenue of 960 gets paid in January. The £1 million in January gets paid in February, and the 1,092,000 gets paid in March. That's not too bad. We receive a loan in March for 300,000. Now, the cost of materials to make a unit is 400. In December, we spend 500,000 because we're making for January. And that 500,000 that we produce gets paid in January. So in essence, January's units times 400 is what our payments are. The labour, however, £100 per unit, gets paid in the month. So in January, we are actually producing for February and we're paying our workforce. We have a machine that is acquired, and subsequently our net cash flow is what comes in less what goes out. 330 comes in, 40,000 goes out. 330 comes in, we had 40,000, we now remain with 370. In February, the net cash flow is 340, our opening balance was 370, our closing 710. We get 282 in March, opening balance of 710, we have 992,000 at the end of March. So when that is uploaded, you can look at that at your leisure and it will make perfect sense. But what is quite tricky here is that in this question, which is, what did I say, December 14th? In this question, we're now asked to calculate the current ratio at the end of the 3-month period. Well, this is taking us full circle because current ratio, as we know, equals current assets. Current assets are inventory plus receivables plus cash. In this instance, our first question was an overdraft divided by our payables. Well, receivables is easy, cash is easy. Payables is okay, but inventory may be a problem. Let me show you where we get this data from. The receivables is going to be that 1,176,000, because that is the revenue in March that is still owed to us and gets paid in April. So at the end of March, we have receivables of 1,176,000. We have, crucially, 1,500 units that await us in April to be sold, and those 1,500 units will be valued not at 400 but at 500, because hopefully you know from your F7 studies you record inventory at the absorption cost of production. In this question we knew that we have materials, labour and overheads. The materials may be 400, but there was $100 for overheads and labour. 500 times 1,500 will give us, I think I've got the number down here, 750,000. Cash is easy because that's our closing balance. So our current assets are 2.9 million and our payables is straightforward enough because that is the amount of money we owe at the end of March. So we have a current ratio of 4.86. In the final part, you're being asked a bit of a trick question because it says, assuming they have a short-term cash surplus, which they do, during the period, should this be invested in shares? No, it shouldn't, because shares, there is a risk of a capital loss. If we have a short-term cash surplus, we should invest it in a risk-free investment. So no, not in shares, because that is too risky for our short-term cash surplus. Guys, I have achieved and I've covered in the time that we've been together, well, certainly the factoring that you guys asked for, the EOQ that you asked for and the ratios that you asked for, and we've also looked at pretty much everything there is to offer from working capital. My question now is then, is there anything, Davidzo, Dale, Mwemba, that you still feel nervous about? Or has this session clarified all you need to know about working capital? Are you ready to call it a night, or do you want to cover anything else? I await with anticipation. Are you still here? Yeah, absolutely. Practice is the only way you're ever going to succeed in this paper. What I've hopefully given you is the insight into how things are examined, and you now need to go away and practice the questions that we've not done, and even practice the questions that we have done. One final question then. On Thursday, our final session, we are going to be covering the delightful topic that is investment appraisal. In helping me select questions for Thursday, what priorities do you have and what would you most like to see me cover on Thursday in investment appraisal? Because there is almost a guarantee that we're going to have an investment appraisal question in the exam. So what, if anything, would you like to see prioritised for Thursday's session? Risk, okay. We can look at a little bit of risk. That I shall do. Lease, oh gosh, let's have a quick look here. Okay, I'm going to write this down here. So you guys have said your priorities are risk. Mwemba, Convertible debt and working capital calculation, that's not to do with investment appraisal. Working capital is. Convertible debt we'll deal with, if you so wish, next Tuesday in our mentoring session. But absolutely, if you want to see working capital in the context of investment appraisal, yes, convertible debt doesn't come into investment appraisal. Dividzo, we see lease or buy. Okay. Well, I will incorporate that into what we do on all of it, okay? Of course, I will cover as much of it as possible. It's always nice to know where your priorities lie. And, one final thing then. Next Tuesday, if you haven't already been informed, we have our mentoring session, our final session, which I believe is going to take place between 7 and 8 o'clock. We have an hour in which to practice. That I will ask you on Thursday as to what you would like to see covered in that final mentoring session prior to your exam. Guys, I apologise for all of the inconvenience and the false starts today. I don't feel that I have rushed anything, and I feel that we have managed to cover everything there is to know about working capital. So if it's all right with you, let's call it a night. Let's reconvene on Thursday for our final session. Please have a look at this investment appraisal stuff in advance to ensure you get the maximum from that session. I'm out of words. I'm lost for words. I will see you on Thursday, guys. Have a good couple of days. Take care. Good night.